Hey everybody, Travis Bowman here. I'm a fingerstyle guitar player and retro video game nerd. It's time for another pickups video. Now, every time I do one of these things, I think, yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 things that would be cool to talk about that I've gotten in the last couple months. But seeing everything on the table, you look at it and you're like, wow, I actually do have a lot of stuff. And you know, some of this was sent to me, and then some of this I've of course paid for with my own money, but I got some really good deals in this video, so I think you guys are going to really appreciate this. So let's jump into it. So in Malvern, Arkansas, I've got a buddy named Cody Bowman who is not related to me. That's been the running joke between us for years now. I actually messaged him on Facebook because I thought he was related to me. I was like, are you my kin, you know? And it turns out that we're not related. We just happen to share the same last name. But anyway, he runs a retro video game store out there in Malvern, Arkansas. And every once in a while they do a video game swap meet. All the big collectors in the state of Arkansas kind of gather together, and some people from out of state actually, to take stuff that they want to sell or trade for other stuff. And my girlfriend Emily and I went to Malvern to check that out. And on the last pickups video, I showed you guys that I got both of the Zelda games complete in box for the Nintendo 64. So why am I showing you that again? Because I have something else to further kind of complete that. I picked up Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, and Ocarina of Time, the strategy guides. I got a really good deal on these. I'm not the biggest collector of strategy guides, but these are pretty freaking cool, man. And the main reason that I wanted to grab these is because I'm actually going to use them. Believe it or not, I've never played any of those Zelda games on the N64 before. So I figured, you know, if I'm going to give it a proper go, I might need a strategy guide. And I just, you know, I love the nostalgia of it, to have a physical thing that you can look down if you have any questions or if you get lost, instead of, you know, getting on your phone or walking over there to your computer or something like that. This is just such a more authentic way to do it. These are in great shape, man. Majora's Mask is admittedly in a little bit worse shape compared to Ocarina of Time, but still, he gave me a super good deal on it. It's a guy that I've known for a while, and I've done some trading with him and stuff before in the past, so I really appreciate him. That was a super, super nice thing for him to do. The next thing I want to show you is a remote control. That's right, a legitimate remote control. I'm actually going to put this in a pickups video. I got this from my buddy Scott, who is a little bit older than me, so he's been into the stereo and audio video tech a little bit longer than I have, and he had this gigantic remote from Sony, which is the RM-AV3000. Look at that sucker, man. This thing is freaking outrageous, but you know, once he told me about it and I looked it up, it was like, I gotta have that. This is so cool. So what is the purpose of this gigantic remote? Well, first of all, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic things that you can control with this, and you can program it specific to your needs. So as long as it is an infrared signal, meaning not Bluetooth, because this is very old, I think this is early 2000s tech, as long as you've got a device that can take an infrared signal, you can program this thing to use it, which is really freaking cool for my purposes, because my main first world complaint is that I have my television, I have the RetroTink 4K, and I have my stereo system. And it's such a pain in the butt to have 3 separate remotes to turn off and on all of these devices when I'm just wanting to play some Sega Genesis or something, right? The point of this gigantic monster is that I've got all 3 of those things programmed. Yeah, even the RetroTink 4K, which just came out a couple of years ago, brand new thing. It takes an infrared signal from the remote. So not only can you go through and adjust like the volume on certain devices, you can turn them off and on, but I've got all of my profiles for my video game systems on the RetroTink 4K set up with this guy. This is not necessarily an expensive remote or a particularly rare one, and to be honest, it's not as great as you might imagine. It's really outdated at this point, but I purely wanted this just for the functionality of being able to connect all my stuff at once. And I haven't gotten in here too deep to program everything exactly the way that I want to, but ideally, what I would like to be able to do, and this is possible by the way, you can program one button to turn on everything. And I mean everything. TV, stereo, RetroTink 4K. Everything turns on at the same time. You can do the same thing to turn everything off, which is Really awesome. Like I said, it's a first world problem, man. You know, it's not that big of a deal because realistically it takes me 10 seconds to turn everything on with all 3 remotes. But sometimes, you know, not all the remotes are in the same place. I might put it on the couch over here instead of, you know, the ottoman that I sit in front of my couch, you know, stuff like that. But still, he gave this to me. Scott's a really nice guy. He does some 3D printing for me sometimes too. He's one of my best buds, and I really appreciate him for hooking me up with this because it is a lot of fun. Even though it is kind of a pain in the ass to program. There's a very extensive manual on how to do all this stuff, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. I need to really spend some more time with it though. Next thing I want to talk about is this really cool power bank that was sent to me by Good AAA. I don't know if they prefer to be pronounced as Good AAA or Good but either way, they sent me an email and was asking me if I was interested in taking a look at it. And to be honest, you know, I haven't had a specific need for a power bank in quite some time. I don't do as much traveling as I used to do. But I could see how this would be a really cool thing to have if you're a guy that likes to travel or maybe even just go camping. You know, we're in the middle of summer right now, and a lot of people like to bring their handheld systems with them, but the problem is if you're out there in the middle of the woods, you don't have a way to charge your stuff. This is a great device for that. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 different cables that are already kind of wired in to this thing, and we've got, you know, your micro USB, you got your USB-C, and your iPhone Thunderbolt, I guess is what it's called. I'm not an Apple person at all, but all those things are connected right there, and you've also got some different ports to charge USB stuff, like a USB-A, USB-C, that sort of thing. This is solar powered too, by the way, which I thought was a really interesting touch. So I actually tried that out. I took it out on the back porch on a sunny day a couple of weeks ago, and I sat it out there and it charged, which is crazy, using the solar panel right here. It's also got a flashlight built in. Yeah, so that's pretty cool too. You know, it's a really bright one, man. Like it is like, it's really bright. Good for telling those campfire stories, you know what I mean? This is a really cool thing, and they did not have to send this to me, but they were like, yeah, we just want you to feature it in one of your videos, and I really appreciate that. This is a really cool device, and I don't know if I would use it that much, but maybe one of you guys might. I'll put the link in the description below. This would be a really good candidate for charging like a Game Boy or something like that if you're on the go. Now, as far as flying with this thing on a plane, I am not up to snuff on my regulations, but I believe this is a 45,800 milliamp battery in this thing. So I don't know if that's good to go on an airline or not. You have to do that research yourself, but still, I really appreciate the guys at Good AAA for sending me this for review. It's pretty awesome. So speaking of Game Boy, I actually got a couple of new consoles, which is a super rare thing for me, man. I don't really get that many new consoles pretty much ever because I pretty much have everything back there that I've gathered in the past 12, 13 years that I could possibly want, except for some unicorn consoles like the Atari Jaguar, the 3DO, and a couple of other random ones. But I did manage to get an original Game Boy in this really cool green shell right here. So I actually put this together myself. I'm really proud of myself for this because I usually suck at this sort of thing, you know what I mean? Soldering is not a skill that I'm really good at, but I still wanted to give it a go because this is a really easy project to do. So the story, I mentioned the swap meet that I went to in Malvern, Arkansas. I actually went to a swap meet, the same one, about a year ago, I think. And that's where I got this Game Boy, but it did not come in this green shell. What happened was I had a couple come up to me, and I was selling some stuff at this swap meet, and they asked me if I was interested in purchasing their Game Boy. And I said, well, I mean, does it work? And they said the screen, you know how Game Boys are. The screens are notoriously bad, and they lose pixels and stuff like that. So that's basically what was going on with it. But I knew that I could take this and replace it with a new IPS screen, which I have done before. And I thought, you know what, I'll roll the dice. And I think they sold it to me for like 15 bucks, dude. It wasn't that much money at all, which was great. So I took the original shell, which had some broken plastic parts. I was really just gonna, replace the screen and that was it. But I figured because the shell was really screwed up, I better get a new one. This really disgusting lime green color really caught my eye. And not only does this have a brand new IPS screen right there, but we also have another upgrade, with the battery. So back there, it's probably going to be a little difficult to see from that distance, I'd wager, and I honestly can't tell if I'm in focus or not. But this is a USB-C rechargeable battery pack in here. Now you'll notice that the battery door is a different color. That's an oopsie on my part. I actually got this new screen. I got the new shell as well as the battery kit and this door from a place called Handheld Legend. Now, I'm not affiliated with them at all. I'm not sponsored or anything. They didn't send me any free stuff or anything. I just purchased this out of my own pocket, and they're pretty cheap, to be honest. The IPS screens are really affordable. The battery pack is pretty affordable, and the shells were really affordable too. So I figured, yeah, why not? My problem was I bought all this at different times in the past year, and I completely forgot about the fact that I would need a matching door. I don't hate it, but it is kind of an eyesore right now. But the point is that it's functional. Now, I may or may not be using this specific Game Boy for an upcoming video with some teenagers that have not played the Game Boy before, so I hope you'll stick around for that, because that'll be hopefully very entertaining. Now let's talk about this right here. This is a really cool thing that I got from my buddy Cody. If you've been a fan of my channel for quite some time, then you know all about Cody. He's never been on the channel before, but I mention him all the time because he's a local guy and he helps me a lot with some modding stuff. He's modded countless consoles for me. I suck at soldering and I've screwed up more things than I'd like to admit, but he was always kind and always there and very patient, and he's always given me a really great price for stuff, and I really appreciate him for that. He's a hell of a guy, and I really appreciate him. But anyway, so he sold me this. This is the Total Control Plus, which is a PlayStation compatible controller adapter for the Sega Dreamcast, complete with VMU slot. So this is actually a really cool thing, really cool piece of technology that we often forget about in this day and age. That, you know, back in the day, every console had a specific controller port, and some third-party companies and even first-party ones would often sell adapters so you can use different controllers on different consoles, which is a really unique thing. But here we have it right here. This is the Total Control Plus, and you can see my red VMU sticking out of it that I already had. This will allow you to connect a PlayStation controller and use it on your Sega Dreamcast. Now, why the hell would I want to do that? To be honest, like the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 controller, I would really not care too much to use that on the Sega Dreamcast because, you know, I have several Dreamcast controllers, both arcade stick and the weird ones, as well as some third-party ones from Retro Fighters that I would actually prefer to use that are wireless. So why did I get this? Because he gave me an insanely good price for it, number one, and number two, I'm going to use it for an upcoming Crazy Cool Controllers video. If you've never seen that on my YouTube channel, I would highly encourage you to check that out. It's a YouTube series where we talk about some of history's craziest and coolest and most unique controllers, and talk about the functionality and whether or not they're going to be good to be used today, that sort of thing. But there's an upcoming video in the oven right now where we're going to talk about a very specific, unique PlayStation controller that you can use on the Sega Dreamcast that might actually be kind of a plus, especially when compared to the original Sega Dreamcast controller. But this is so cool, man. I really, really do like this adapter. And there's one for the Dreamcast that lets you use a Saturn controller, which is freaking amazing. But unfortunately, that one from Total Control is ungodly expensive. It's up there in the $100 range, and I wish I could get my hands on one of those, but for what it is, you know, I just can't justify spending that much money for a controller adapter. But this one is still pretty affordable, and who knows, it might go up in the future. We just don't know yet. But still, thank you, Cody. I really appreciate that. That's really, really nice of you. Now let's talk about this new Nixie controller. So Nixie is a wonderful company that primarily makes controllers for the Nintendo Switch. However, they've started to migrate very, very slowly into doing other things such as keyboards, and they've also made a couple controllers for PC gaming, specifically just for PC, which is really, really cool. They're starting to dip their toes into some of the retro consoles, specifically the GameCube. Now, this is not their first attempt at doing a GameCube controller, but I believe this is their first GameCube-style controller, meaning it kind of looks like the Wavebird a little bit. It's kind of like an oversized Wavebird. Now, I just got this in the mail the other day. Honestly, I have not even, tried to use it on my console yet, but I will be doing a review video, an in-depth review video on this. Nixie makes some really high-quality stuff, and they're really good about having a lot of good sales on their website. So I would really encourage you guys to check out the link in the description. If you want to get something like this for yourself, you've got a 10% off coupon in my description below this video if you want to check that out. But this is a really cool design. I won't go too deep in depth on it because, like I said, I'm going to do a dedicated video on it. But this is like a Switch controller, a PC controller, and you've got a dongle that you can use on your Nintendo GameCube as well. But, I mean, it's pretty much a Switch controller, man. You can take them apart like this. And I'm not sure how I feel about the all-white design. I've got buddies that sweat battery acid, especially when we're really getting into some competitive video games, so I'm kind of concerned about that. This might just be a Travis controller because my hands are always really dry. I would really hate to see a bunch of stains and stuff on this because it is beautiful. It's a solid white controller all the way around, and it's really kind of a pretty thing. And I'm having a hard time seeing if this is actually being picked up on camera because of the light that's blasting it right now. But still, Nixie has been a really great company, and they've always been really cool to me. You know, when I was first starting out, they were the first company to reach out to me and say, hey, we like your stuff. We're going to send you some controllers if you want to review them. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds awesome. I'd love to do that. And they've pretty much sent me every controller that they've come out with ever since, and I'm really grateful for them. So if anything like this is of interest to you, if you want to try to get a new controller for your Nintendo GameCube or even your Nintendo Switch, I would highly recommend checking out Nixie. And again, you can find all that stuff in the link in the description below. Last on the list is a brand new console. And it's actually a console and not a handheld, which is crazy. But this, of course, is the Sega Master System, which is honestly not really a new thing for me. I've had a Master System before, actually. I actually had the whole bundle and everything. I had the light phaser, the 2 controllers, and I also had the 3D glasses at one point in my life. But you know what? It was a weird time, and I decided I'm going to sell some things that I just don't use that much. And the reason that I don't use the Master System that often is because of the Mega EverDrive Pro. Even just the regular old EverDrive for your Sega Genesis. You can play every single Master System game by default on a flash cart like that. So it's kind of just like, what's the point? You know, what's the point of having another console hooked up and having to deal with changing the capacitors and stuff like that if you already have that capability of playing all the games on a system that's already plugged up? And it's kind of sort of native hardware because the Master System is sort of built into the Sega Genesis anyway. But anywho, Cody, again, Cody hooked me up with this, and he posts some stuff for sale that he fixes up, and his prices are just too damn good. And I guess that's, you know, how he keeps selling stuff so quickly is because, damn it, man, that's a really good price. How can I just walk away from that? And really the main reason that I jumped on this was because it came with the Triad power supply, which is some of the best third-party power supplies that you can get. You know you're getting a good quality product with that power supply. And number 2, I definitely want to use this in a video. I've been doing a lot of videos where some teenagers are checking out some retro video game consoles for the first time, and I mean, I've got the NES, so I can't let that slide, dude. I can't do an NES video and not have a Sega Master System video to compare to, so I wanted a legitimate Sega Master System here. Now, to my knowledge, this has been slightly modified to have a different pinout right there, and I believe there's been some RGB stuff that's been cleaned up in this Master System as well. I don't know the full story on that. But one extra thing that Cody hooked me up with was the power supply. We've got the Master System control pad. Now this is like, I think this is an early version of the controller where the cable comes out on the right side instead of straight out of the top, which I honestly have never seen before. It's a really strange thing, this Master System controller. If you guys don't know, if you've been living under a rock, there is no start button on this controller. There's no way to pause your game. You have to get up from the couch or your comfy chair and press this little button right there if you want to pause your game, which is just ridiculous and such a terrible idea from Sega back in the day. But, you know, it was a different time. I wasn't even born yet, so I can't really say too much about that. But still, he also hooked me up with this, which is just a SCART cable. SCART is one of the best ways to get RGB video quality out of your superior system, and the Sega Master System has that natively. But like I said, I think it's been modified to get a little bit of a cleaner signal out of there. And instead of the default Sega Genesis 1 style port, it has been fitted with a Genesis style 2 port, which is really kind of cool, and that's what this cable is. Now, what makes this cable special is that this comes from Retro Access, and to my knowledge, Retro Access is currently either going out of business or they're just not in business anymore. I know it's run by one lady, and I believe she's been going through some trials and tribulations that I'm not privy to as far as the details, but these were some of the best SCART cables that you could possibly buy. The quality is just simply unmatched, and it's just a shame that she's going out of business. But Cody hooked me up with this at no additional cost, so you know, I will definitely be using this exact SCART cable to go with this Master System when I plug it up with the other consoles back there. Running out of room, admittedly, but I think I can squeeze one more console in there for sure. But I'm really happy to have this. This could potentially, you know, be a kind of a rare cable that's very sought after and desirable in the future. But for now, it's going to be used in my collection for sure. So yeah, it's been kind of a crazy couple months. I got a bunch of random stuff, but I'm really curious to know what you guys think about the Sega Master System, and have you ever done any sort of handheld modding with the Game Boy with a new IPS screen or battery mods and stuff like that? And what do you guys think about strategy guides? Do you have a collection of strategy guides? Where do you find your strategy guides? Because if you're looking on eBay, you're probably going to be paying a little bit too much. I think, in my opinion, the best place to find strategy guides is in person, either at an expo or, you know, at a swap meet like I did. But I really appreciate you guys for watching these videos. I know that I don't do them as often as I do other stuff on my YouTube channel, but it is fun to do this kind of thing, and I really appreciate you guys watching this. So thanks very much for subscribing. Thanks for checking out all of the other videos that are in the description below. I've got some playlists below where you can check out teenagers playing some of these retro consoles for the first time. So far, we've done the Neo Geo, we've done the Sega Genesis, we've done the Sega Dreamcast, and we've got a brand new one coming out pretty much tomorrow, I think, as of the making of this video. So if you're watching this in the future, it's already out. I really appreciate you guys watching those videos. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll catch you at the next one. Bye-bye.